Right, so welcome to the channel. I'm going to be hosting for the first time this evening, so should be all good fun. We've got Andrew Wall, Dan from Red Devils TV, John Kay, and Anton on today's show. We're going to be talking about Marcus Rashford and his future at the club, also the England fallout. So yeah, we'll get straight into it. So I've got a few questions for you guys on today's show. I've tried to keep them a little bit private to keep you on your toes. We're going to start with, obviously, what happened at England in terms of the whole fallout, in predictable fallout when he pulled out injured. So we'll start with Dan. My first question would be, do you think there is an agenda against certain players when they pull out injured? And what did you make of the Rashford situation in general?
I mean, I don't really care. To be honest, I don't really watch international football. I hardly watch the World Cup. The World Cup in Qatar. But realistically, I think that the whole media blown out of proportion is a bit embarrassing, to be honest, because I saw this certain journalist saying something like, "Oh, Marcus Rashford should feel honoured to be called up by Southgate," and I'm like, hang on a minute, like, it's Gareth Southgate. It's like, as I say, I asked to be invited to your younger sister's birthday party. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like an invitation that you don't really want to go. Like, Rashford is obviously, I mean, I've seen it especially with Rashford this year. He's chosen club over country. And now with the recent reports and also with PSG offering him over 400k a week last summer, it's clear that he's set on Manchester United, which is brilliant. And it shows that he wants to do well this season with Manchester United, and for him, England is just a stopgap, really, is what we could say. And for me, I feel like that Marcus Rashford is just prioritising his season with Manchester United over his international career, you could say.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's the PSG offer is something that we'll definitely touch on a bit later in the show. It's on the list. So we'll jump to Anton, and I've got a question for you in terms of Gareth Southgate and the way he's treated some England players in particular. So we've seen with Ben White, there's been an issue at the World Cup. He's come back early. It doesn't look like he'll get picked again for England now, which I think's a bit crazy because he's in the form of his life, even at right back. This was obviously a question that I asked before Gareth Southgate quite deliberately stepped back on the Sunday interview. Do you think Marcus Rashford is going to have a bit of a problem getting in the England team now? And what do you make of the situation in general?
I think he's kind of under Southgate. He's kind of always had a problem really cementing a place in the England side. When Southgate came in, I guess it's like a intro interview or the first interview he does as England manager. The thing that I'll always remember him saying is that he'll pick players off form. He won't have the favourites. And if you're playing well, you're going to play for your country. And ever since then, he's not done that on, more than 5 times, I'd say. You have the obvious favourites, Calvin Phillips being one, for example. Wouldn't call Harry Kane a favourite because he is the best striker. But I'd say Phil Foden is up there, Mason Mount. You have the defenders as well. There's a lot of players, not just Rashford, who deserve to be starting for England that probably don't even make it into the squad. It took forever for Ivan Toney to get called up, for example. You got Fikayo Tomori at AC Milan, and then, of course, Marcus Rashford. I don't think that this is anything new, to be honest. In a way, not in a way, I am happy that he pulled out of the squad because he's played an obscene amount of games. He does need rest. A lot of our players need rest and have had rest over the international break. So I am a fan of that. He shouldn't have problems getting into the England squad, but he will because it's Southgate. And I just think that, in all honesty, he's the wrong manager for the England squad. The amount of talent we have at our disposal. You got Rashford, Foden, Saka competing for 2 spots on the wings. A lot of other countries don't have that many players of that quality fighting for places. And Southgate isn't the right guy. He's never been a good manager. He's a people pleaser. And I purely believe that any manager could have taken us to where we've got to in the last couple of tournaments. The talent in our squad is immense. And even though we don't actually win anything, We are one of the best international sides in the world. Southgate isn't one of the best international managers in the world, which is someone that you should have managing players like this. I
So
cannot.
I've got a few stats to back you up there, Anton, a little bit.
Yeah.
So Rashford is featured in 52 out of 82 matchday squads, playing only 2,225 minutes of 4,950 available.
Wait, so how long is this from? Is this international matchday squads or domestic?
Yeah, this is international.
Okay, under Southgate.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's he started just 21 of those 55 appearances that he's had as well.
Yes.
And even with those stats, he's second behind only Kane for productivity in terms of goals and assists. With I think it's 14 goals, 5 assists. So me personally, I would say it's very clear that Rashford's been, I'd say, mistreated by England.
Definitely.
Jarvis has made a great point there. He came back from injury early to go to the Euros when he didn't have to. He could have took a break. The games he's played this season also, he could have took a break as well. I don't think anybody was shocked by him pulling out. I think it was quite
predictable,
predictable. Yeah,
it's something that Sir Alex used to make his players do, wasn't it?
Oh, constantly. Yeah, I'm surprised as many went as they did this time, to be honest. So we'll jump to you, John. What do you make of the whole situation? Do you think Southgate is the right man to take England forward? And do you think he's going to keep picking Rashford despite this fallout?
Do I think Southgate's right manager for England? No. But then it's a case of, well, would you go for? My opinion, I don't think he is the one to bring us. So I think he's done a good job to a point. The World Cup in 2018, obviously, goes to Euros final, but I think that Euros final was the big killer for him. I think it's unforgivable what he did with Rashford and Sancho in that final, hardly playing them and bringing them on 2 minutes ago. They hardly get a touch the ball and they asked to step up to take penalties, which was appalling, really. Will Rashford get called up? Well, I think it's something that's been blown out of proportion, I'll be honest, because I think there are rules now in place. Because I think in the past, players like Giggs used it with Wales. I think Ferdinand used it with England, that players will say I'm unavailable. I think they've changed it a little bit to say that the players have to present, to their the medical teams at, like Rashford would have had to present at St George's Park, and that to be assessed by England medics, and then a decision was made that he had the knock and he wasn't fit, and clearly that's what the England medical team said, and they advised Southgate of that. So and for me, so you'd have to take the word that he wasn't injured, and because otherwise he would have been part of the squad. Will Southgate continue to treat Rashford? I reckon so. He's in form, so why wouldn't he pick him? If he continues his form for the rest of the season, I'm sure he'll be, as long as he's fit, I'm sure he'll be picked again. Obviously, the last year or so before the World Cup, he wasn't being picked for England because he was in form. Now, I do question how Southgate's managed him and that, but for me, I don't think it's the end of his England career or anything like that. And hopefully, if he continues to form, he might find his way to be a starter in England. So I think that left wing position is up for grabs. I think Saka's made the right wing his own. Obviously, Harry Kane picks himself, and it's between Foden, Grealish, and Rashford, I think, for the left wing, if they're all in form. And for me, I think Rashford's very capable at the moment. So I think it's been blown out of proportion. I do think Southgate hasn't handled it correctly. But, for me, he must have been injured. Otherwise, he would have remained with the England team.
Yeah, no, again, I wouldn't disagree at all. I think it's not been handled very well from England's point of view. Obviously, you made the point of them having to, is it St George's, and make sure they're fit. So I think we all saw a minimal injury coming for the fact that he's been playing so long. I personally thought he looked injured against Liverpool. And he's shook it off over the last few games, but he didn't look right against Liverpool at all. So Andrew, we'll come to you, mate. This one's a little bit less about football and more about off the pitch. So obviously we saw that he went to New York for a bit of a break while he was off for the week or 2 weeks or whatever. Do you think that was a reason why Southgate sort of reacted the way he did? Because from what I understand, if they're going to go away on international break and they've been called up, they're supposed to tell the manager where they're going, etc. And then just the same question to you: what do you make of Southgate's handling of the situation? And do you think he's used Rashford well enough? Now, he seems to constantly pick Phil Foden at left wing from the England games I've seen. He seems to be an absolute shoe-in for the position. So it'd be interesting to see whether you think that position's up for grabs or not. But Southgate definitely seems to have made his mind up on, say, the England front three, and Rashford is struggling to get a look in.
Well, as others point out, Southgate, when he first came in, he said, "Oh, I'm going to pick players on form." But the situation with Rashford, him being pictured in New York, well, and Southgate said it, and he's entirely up to him what he does with his time off. He can go to New York and go to anywhere he wants for a rest, but I just think I can see where Southgate's coming from. He wants his best players in the squad. He wants to see how they're going to play, and who he's going to pick for the qualifiers. So he wants to see if their club form will match for their form for the country as well. But when Rashford did pull out the squad, in some ways it came as a bit of a relief. This is a player, he's pushed himself for club and country before, and it's backfired with injury and form as well. So I just think, like for United this season, he's racked up 44 games and played a lot of minutes. So we all expected to see him back in training at the first opportunity, and right on cue today, Rashford's making his return to training, and I think United put out a report saying, he was able to get on the grass, a bit of light training, away from the main group, so no ball work involved. But it's almost like, you can give up the pretense now on that one, because I just think back in light training just is United playing along just to avoid annoying the FA over Rashford withdrawing, and just think there'll be no doubt he won't be lining up against Newcastle this weekend as well. I mean, it's almost like his withdrawal was timed so perfectly so he could get that crucial break. I mean, since the World Cup, United have been playing 3 games a week, midweek, weekend, so it's taken its toll. And I think in April we've got 9 games in all competitions, so we've been heavily relying on his goals. He's struck 27 in total, so it was perfect timing for him to have his rest as well, so we can go again for that towards the end of the season. But as I say, if he just carries on the way he's going, Southgate's got no choice to pick him, because he said, "I'll pick players on form." I know what you're saying about, Phil Foden getting ahead of him while being picked. I just think the England-France game, everybody was like saying Rashford probably deserved to start that one, but he probably should have come on early in the game. But like I say, I care about United, and that's what Rashford plays more games for United than England, so I just want him to do well for United. If he does well for England, that's a bonus.
Yeah, so I agree. I sort of agree with what Simon's saying here, and I think we've all alluded to it in when we've been speaking. It's basically, when I grew up, it was a Sir Alex Ferguson thing for sure. So I think Ryan Giggs was one of the worst for it. He would hardly ever go with Wales, but would always end up playing in the massive games, because it was obviously the choice. Ferguson was saying, pick your club over your country, you play more games for us, etc. We've got more going off. I'm in a bit of a different point of view in terms of Gareth Southgate, not in terms that I think he's the right man for England. It's more in terms of, you can't really argue with the job he's done to get where he's got. It's there on paper. But at the same time, I agree with Anton in terms of, I think many other managers could have got us to those positions as well, especially with the players available. I lost sort of track of England when he first said, we will pick on form. And within 3 squads, it was out the window completely. The fact that it's taken so long for Ivan Toney to get a call up is mad. I know the betting thing might be included in that or whatever. And even then, was it 2-0 against the Ukraine? And he still brought Tony on with maybe 17 minutes to go. It's not great, is it? So I've got one quick question for everybody, and then we'll move on to part two. So basically, my question is, we'll start Andrew and go around. Do we think Rashford will get picked for the next qualifiers?
Yes.
Yeah,
What about you,
I say so. Yeah.
Anton?
Yeah, he will.
John?
Yes, if not injured.
Yeah, resounding yes as all around. That's what I thought. Right,
Stop
so
being
we'll
negative,
move on.
John.
Right then.
It might not be a negative. It might be another. He's played 3 games a week for the next 6 weeks, so he might have another injury.
We're saying though that he gets picked. I think it might be another situation because don't forget. I mean, isn't it the internationals and then you have like the players have like a 2-week break and then the league then pre-season starts or something.
Yeah,
so maybe
that's right,
maybe Rashford does the same as he's already done. He's just like, I don't want anything to do with the internationals for this season.
Well, I think you sort of spot on there, Dan, because if I'm Rashford and I'm looking at games I've started, so before we move on, we've got some World Cup information, which is he came off the bench and scored against Iran. He only played 12 minutes against the USA, despite England playing absolutely poorly. He started against Wales, scoring twice. He got benched and only played 25 minutes against Senegal after scoring 2. And then, what did he get? 3 minutes against France?
He got that free kick at the end, I think.
Yeah.
Let's not forget he brought Sterling on before or after it.
Did Sterling not fly home and then come back?
Yeah.
So I genuinely think Southgate has managed Rashford wrong, not just over this period, but a longer period. And I think Rashford's right to question, in a way, what's the point in going? I'm really tired. Am I going to get picked? Am I even going to play? So is it better to have time off? Is it better to thingy? So we'll move on to part 2. So we'll start with Andrew on this one. And the very first question is simple. At what point, and this will be a question to everybody, at what point should United start to worry that the new a new deal hasn't been agreed yet going forward?
That's a difficult one. Because obviously we triggered that 1-year extension, so we still got another year with us, but I don't know whether United would run the risk. And I just think if it's not been done by October, November, then by January he's free to talk to clubs in Europe over potential transfers. But knowing Rashford now he's back in form, and Ten Hag, and I'm going to give special note to Benny McCarthy as well. He can come in, and I think he's worked wonders with Rashford. I think every time he scores a goal, that celebration, I think is a nod to them too as well, because he's giving him that mentality as well. So I'd say from what I've read on The Athletic as well, I think they're just beginning the process. So when there is some news, United will announce it. I think this is going to be the biggest contract for Rashford, so he wants to make sure he's getting the right deal for him as well. And I don't think it will be pinned on who the Glazers sell the club to as well. I think Rashford is having such good form. He's enjoying his time at the club again as well. After last season, it was, as I've said before, he looked like a shadow, and it was just like so sad to watch at Old Trafford. When he was trying to take players on and he wasn't getting past them, or passes were going astray, or he wasn't scoring as much as he was. But I just think we'll see over the summer once this season's got done with. They can all sit down and thrash it all out. But yeah, if it's not done by October, November, then I'll start to worry a little bit.
Same question to you, Dan.
I'm not worried. Like I said before, I think it's pretty obvious that Rashford is one of them players that does prefer club over country, and I think he's had the opportunities to go in the past, especially with PSG last summer. And I mean, Rashford had a terrible season last season, and if he wanted to join PSG that badly for all that money and stuff, he could have left and had a fresh new start playing in the Farmers League. But it just shows that Marcus Rashford is a true Manchester United player, a true Manchester United fan. And I'm not worried that he'll go. I think that, a lot of deals aren't being done right now. People are talking about like David De Gea and stuff. People are talking about Diogo Dalot. There are other players going out of contract this season, as well as Marcus Rashford. So I think that the reason that none of these deals are happening is because of the Glazers and the process of the club being sold. So people panicking that Rashford's going to leave or something. I don't think so. What I think is going to happen is that Erik ten Hag is going to look at every single player, trigger their extended year in the contract, and then as the new owners join, then they'll sit down with Erik ten Hag and say, right, which players you want to keep, which players don't you want to keep, and then they'll negotiate new contracts with certain players like the likes of Marcus Rashford. I'd say probably Luke Shaw, Diogo Dalot. I don't think the likes of Fred or who else, like Brandon Williams and Axel Tuanzebe, I don't think they're the ones that are going to make it through the summer. But I think that certain players will get that extra year to play under Erik ten Hag for another season. But I'm not worried that we'll lose Marcus Rashford.
So I think David De Gea is the only one that's not been extended so far, actually. So I think Dallow's has been done, Fred's been done. I think Rashford's has already been done as well, obviously to take into next summer.
Luke Shaw as well.
Yeah, I think all of them but De Gea. Obviously, they're trying to negotiate De Gea down to a smaller contract. So just a few things that came out after I wrote all this down for the stream. So apparently the contract talks are due to begin, according to The Athletic. It should pick up pace in the next few weeks, and PSG reportedly offered him €450,000 a week in the summer to go. So thankfully he stayed. So the same question to you, Anton, but I'm just going to throw in a bit of an extra one.
Yeah.
With the Ronaldo rule that's apparently going around, which is obviously F's thing, saying that we shouldn't pay over a certain amount of money, players should have to earn it. Do you think wages will be a stumbling issue if he is to stay?
I've heard of the Ronaldo rule, but is the Ronaldo rule, is it £250,000 a week?
I think that was the rumor, yeah.
If that is correct, the rumor might be wrong, the number might be wrong, but if £250,000 is the cap before you have to, earn it, like maybe Fernandes could go over that, Rashford probably could. I don't think it'd be a stumbling block, regardless of who the owners are, because I also saw that he might be holding out to see where the ownership goes, which I think is quite a smart decision. I don't think anybody would fumble a bag like Marcus Rashford. I think he is the face of Manchester United. If we're honest, he's from Manchester. He's one of the most marketable players in the Premier League, in Europe. With the, I guess, publicity that him alone can bring to Manchester United, they're not going to let his contract go past January, because, of course, once you get to January, you can talk to other European clubs. I'd be worried. I wouldn't be worried in October. I might start itching in November, but if we hit December and he still hasn't signed a new contract, then I think at that point in my heart, I'll be thinking he's probably going to leave. We obviously messed up somewhere, but I don't think we will. I don't think we're stupid enough. Even the Glazers wouldn't even mess this up. They'd give him a big bumper contract, probably around 350. That's what Sancho's on right now, actually.
It is, yeah, 350.
They probably give him something like that. I don't think they give him the 400 that PSG are offering. I think that'd be too much of a risk. We'd have new owners, and I don't think they'd want to start off by giving someone £400,000 a week. And we've seen it with so many players. That massive contract comes in, whether or not they're the hardest working player on the team, they stay an extra after training. When you get that type of money, you relax. And we don't want that to happen, especially with Marcus Rashford. So my answer to your question is, I'd be worried in November. I'd think he's leaving if we got to December and he hasn't signed a new contract. I think you'd probably get around 350, maybe a bit less than that.
Same question to you then, John. Where do you stand on this? Are you worried about him leaving? Should we be worried about him leaving? Do you think United will go above the Ronaldo rule if the Ronaldo rule's true?
Well, I'm not worried. Not particularly. Like others have mentioned, it is, as it through and through. I do think he'll end up signing an extended deal at United and that, and if it was, I mean, it'd be interesting when if Qatar do eventually take over and PSG are owned by Qatar, it could be interesting, couldn't it? But for me, obviously, the club also has to factor in, like these new FFP rules as well, like player wages and, transfers, that has to be a factor as well. But I'm not sure how much is he on at the moment. So
I think it's 200,000 a week.
Right, so that's not massive compared to what the others. I reckon maybe around 300 might be the thing, or maybe slightly over. Might be that, as you mentioned, you could use your argument, well, Sancho's earning this and, he's not performing. Varane's around 300, isn't he? I assume Casemiro will be on a huge amount as well. So, but De Gea, obviously, we're renegotiating. So I think it's right that we have a structure that, we can't continually be paying, over the odds in terms of like wages for players, because it's proven very difficult to get rid of players over the last few years, hasn't it? So I think you got to be reasonable and, financially conservative in terms of like not spending more than, you can afford to and that. But for me, I do think that obviously we'll look to maybe 300k. I don't think the club, I think having the Ronaldo rule is a good thing. I don't think you can afford to make expensive mistakes anymore, and hopefully if we do get new owners, they will be financially responsible. But yeah, I'm not too concerned. I do think it'll end up staying, and hopefully it'll get resolved over the next few months or so.
See, can I just jump in here, Dan? 1 sec.
Go for it.
Just to counter John's opinion, I disagree with this wage cap, because I think that if United want to become the biggest club in the world again, like what Qatar his proposition is, like they were saying, we want to restore Manchester United, this and this, we want to make them the best team in Europe again and stuff. Erling Haaland is currently on like £900,000 a week at Man City. If United want to go and be at Man City level, then we're going to have to be getting players at them like prices, like they're going to cost us. I mean, if we want Osimhen in the summer or Harry Kane, they're going to want high wages, and that's what Manchester United might lose out on, these big players, if we don't offer big wages. So I think it would be a bit of a shame if we do put this wage cap in, because it might be a setback. But at the end of the day, I think that's where the Glazers have failed as well, because we've come in for players way too late when they're demanding massive money, when United should be getting there earlier, like your Evan Ferguson's, like this Denmark striker at Atlanta. I can't remember his name, Holsund or something. They're both United fans, and they're both between the age of 18 and 20. So they seem to look like exciting prospects, and I just think that United have failed when it comes to getting them players early. I mean, Alexis Sanchez, he's a good one. We brought him in, high money, didn't deliver. Same with Jadon Sancho. It's like how you talked about, Dan, about how players being relaxed after earning a lot of money when they come straight in. So if we start developing youth or start getting younger players in, I think that's where we'll be able to develop and won't need a massive wage cap. But the players like Osimhen and Harry Kane, I do think that the wage cap would be a bit of a setback for United, like Frankie de Jong and stuff.
So can I just come in as well?
Yeah, go for it.
But I can understand your point, and I don't know what the wage cap should be. It might be 250k, it might be 300k, but the fact is you do have to be more financially responsible. Like we go from Anthony, for example, what was he on at Ajax? Was it around 20k? He's gone up to 200k.
Something like that, yeah.
Was Sancho on at Dortmund? Was he on 50 or 60k? He's gone up to 300k. I do agree with Dan's point there. If you want to buy the best, you'll have to pay them wage. But you look at Liverpool, for example. They've the way they've managed to do it over the years, and you're right to point out Haaland at City, but we all know most of City's players' wages below what the actual United counterparts are. We have a lot more players, if you talk the average earning of United, it's a lot more than what the average his player is in Liverpool. So you can argue, well, until maybe a couple of years ago, we made the most revenue, and that also you got to factor in these new FFP rules, and City of they're on investigation as well. Possibly we don't know how that'll end up, but they have been, they have been accused of inflating, sponsorships and that. So
Everton have just failed it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like these kind of things are going on. And I think these FFP rules, they will be stricter in that. And I do agree, you still got to look to get the best players. I'm not saying like a certain wage cap, but I think it's reasonable to say, well, we shouldn't pay a ridiculous amount of wages. Now, I don't know what level that should be, but I do think it's wise to think about, right, let's have a target, kind of thing. Let's say no one should earn above this. I don't think that's unreasonable, but it's got to be competitive as well.
Yeah. Did you have something to add there, Anton?
I was going to say something, but I actually cannot remember what I was going to say. I think Dan might have covered it. Oh, no, I did have something to say, but it was about the Ronaldo rule. It's objective until it's not. And you get £250,000 a week, let's say, until you earn it. From what I read ages ago when I saw the Ronaldo rule being spoken about first on Twitter, it was partly one of the reasons it might have been introduced was because there was a lot of why is he getting paid this much in the dressing room? Once they get to that 250,000 and you think you might deserve more, the manager thinks you might deserve more, it's just going to happen again, isn't it? Because I don't know what the stipulations are, but let's say, for example, wouldn't happen, but Scott McTominay wants the 300,000 a week. He thinks he's deserved it. He's come through the academy. He's been there for a long time, blah, blah, blah. He has all of these reasons. Okay, the manager agrees. Now Scott McTominay's on £300,000 a week. Guarantee there'll be 5 or 6 players in the dressing room who think, why is he on that? I should be on that. Then the whole thing just starts again. Now that I've thought about that, if I'm honest, I kind of slightly disagree with the Ronaldo rule. I just think the club should be run properly, and players getting bought in should have incentives in their contract, more incentives, rather than such a high base salary wage. I don't know if I said that sentence correctly, but instead of just off, because I know I said it, because Dan said Haaland's on 900k a week. I also saw something about that. I think his base salary is around 400 to 500 or something, but literally if he scores, he gets another big chunk, and then because of how well he's performing, that's why he's getting 900k a week. I think that's how contracts should be structured, if that is 100% factual. And again, I agree with Dan now. Manchester City are doing it right. If they're paying out 900k a week, that's because the players earned it. That's because they've done what they need to do to an exceptional level. Manchester United do it the opposite way.
I just want to say something there, is that we're talking about players' contracts here, and that this has all been down to previous managers about how they've negotiated wrong. It's down to the club and stuff. But if we've looked at Garnacho's, right, he's been negotiated to be on £50,000 a week, which for Garnacho at his level, it seems to be quite cheap actually, considering the likes of Brandon Williams. He plays 5 games under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and gets 80 grand a week. So it's nice to see that Erik ten Hag's been a bit more stable and right, okay, you don't deserve that much yet. But then I read something on Twitter or in an article that Garnacho has bonuses where he's after a certain amount of first start appearances and after a certain amount of goals, then his wage starts to go up. So that's the type of route I think we should be going down, and I think that should be for all players. And as well is that we call them deadwood on this channel, that it's been so hard to offload these deadwood type players because of their high wages. So United have been having to be paying out these high wages and being stuck with the likes of Phil Jones, Brandon Williams, Axel Tuanzebe's, the players that could be out there doing something else. It's that's why no one probably coming for Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire would probably be a brilliant player for a mid-table team in the Premier League, because he's on about £200,000 a week himself. No one's going to want to pay it.
So, just to jump on that point, When you said Garnacho is probably on less than he should be, that sounds crazy to me because he's on way more than he should be. He was playing youth football last season, so to be on 50k already is madness. But I agree what you're saying in terms of I would blame Woodward more than the managers because he was sort of responsible. If Woodward was here, Garnacho would probably be on 135k a week. It's just not been done very well. So yeah, we'll move on. Jarvis has asked a good question back here. Let me just find it for you, and we'll go to Andrew on this one. I don't know whether you can see the question. It says, "Will Rashford suit Ten Hag's style when he gets the players he needs to play the way he wants?"
I think, well, yes. Well, I think Rashford's suiting Ten Hag's style at the moment. It's obviously going to adapt over time as well, but you can see the form and the goals that Rashford's been scoring this season. Say the coaching team that Ten Hag brought around him, just like with the new deal that potentially Rashford's going to sign, those that are close to Rashford have talked of positivity around the club and the player himself, and just shows how much Ten Hag's turned things around. So I think in the summer, I'm just thinking maybe 3 or 4 players will come in that will be more suited to Ten Hag's style as well, and then a few that will go out the door as well. But who they will be, that's for Ten Hag to decide. So, and obviously those that have had their contracts, extended by another year, whether they'll get further, contracts on top of that. So, but no, I think for Rashford, I know we've been heavily reliant on him this season with the 27 goals, and hopefully he scores a lot more towards the end of the season. But it does show we do need an out-and-out striker as well, because I think Rashford is best coming off the left. I know he can play through the middle as well, but coming off the left is where Rashford is best. So an out-and-out striker will complement him too as well, and that will, give him a bit of a break as well, because, you don't want him heavily reliant on him, because, like I say, he's pushed himself before for us, and it's,
Yeah. Andrew, just to back your argument as well about the thing is that we're talking about Rashford being in the form of his life right now, and he's actually doing that off the left-hand side and making it his own role, which is absolutely brilliant. And I went to the United stand tour in Manchester, and I got into a debate with Mark Goldbridge and Ben Foster because they asked the audience, would you rather Victor Osimhen or Harry Kane? And pretty much the entire room put up their hands for Victor Osimhen, and I said Harry Kane. And then Mark Goldbridge just went, who's this prat? Why do you want Harry Kane, this, and this? And I was just there like, well, let me say something. It's like, because I think Victor Osimhen, I'd rather Victor Osimhen, but for Ten Hag's style of play, he likes his striker to be good with link-up play. And we've seen Harry Kane's passing ability with Heung-min Son. It pretty much, Heung-min Son and Marcus Rashford are the same type of players. You like to get in behind on that left-hand side and then become more central as they're running past the defence. And I think that's why Harry Kane would be better suited for Erik Ten Hag's system. But that's just my opinion. And I just think that if Harry Kane did come to United, Rashford would thrive massively. And plus, when Rashford did play for internationally, they already have that link up already there. So, but that's just my opinion. I don't know what you think of that.
So I find that quite interesting. The player that I would like to see Kane play with, I don't know if you'll agree with it, is Sancho. We was talking on the last show about Sancho's brain, and I think Kane's very much got a footballing brain as well. So I think Sancho would absolutely love playing off Harry Kane, like into him and then off him. It would be really, really good. So same question to John. What do you think about Jarvis's question? Do you think he'll fit Ten Hag's style of play?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, he's fitting his style play at the moment, isn't he? So, but I do think perhaps he needs to learn to maybe put the ball in the box more. But I do think I agree with Dan around Harry Kane, for example. He's obviously a brilliant goal scorer, but he's great into licking. But it's like there are times where, whereas for me, you look at Harry Kane, his link up, like he drops deep sometimes. And we know what Rashford's main strength is making those inward runs from the left, isn't he? So if if Kane was to drop deep, then Rashford could exploit that space, couldn't he? So for me, I agree, it depends on the type of striker that you have. Obviously, our wingers as a whole got to be better at putting the ball into the box, whoever we sign as a striker. And for me, I think Rashford will develop his game, having to play like Harry Kane. We we know in the midfield how much the sign Casemiro has impacted all the players around him. And like you say, last week we spoke about Sancho. He hasn't had much opportunity to play with Casemiro and Eriksen this season, and I think bringing in another forward would help improve the forward plays and around there. It could improve Bruno's game, Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, having that central link where not only if you put in the box he'll score the goals, but also it'll feed you and create chances for others. For me, that partnership he has with Son at Tottenham, I know it hasn't quite flourished this season, but for me it is a better partnership in the Premier League than those two possibly. So for me, if he does get the striker that he wants, then I don't see why Rashford won't think to say. So if anything, I think he'll probably improve his game further, having a striker that can link up the play with all the other forwards and that.
Yeah, the reason why I think it's such an interesting question is because I'm of the opinion, and not many people agree with this opinion, to be honest, is that United currently are basically just playing off what Ole played a few years ago. Probably a little bit more counter-attacking than what Ole was playing, just because he's not got the plays he wants and it works. So it suits Rashford quite a lot being in. I've been impressed with Rashford's dribbling ability more so as well this season. It's been incredible. But I find it interesting to see whether once we shift to the high press with a high defensive line, which Ten Hag likes to play, if he can adapt his game to not constantly be on the counter-attack. He's shown, in my opinion, that he's brilliant on the ball and he's good enough to do it. So same to you, Anton. Do you think going forward that he'll be the starting left winger for Ten Hag? Do you think he'll bring anybody else in? Oh, you muted, Anton. 1 second.
There we go. That second question is a whole different one in itself, but I'll try and answer that quickly. I don't think he'll bring in another left winger. We got Rashford, obviously, who's the first choice. You got Garnacho, who's going to try and bring through and get to even better level than Rashford. Can't really even think of another left winger who would be good enough to start or challenge. That is available.
The Napoli left winger.
I knew someone was going to say that. They're going to slap a ridiculous price tag on him.
Yeah.
And I don't think you make that move.
No.
A triple-digit move after one season.
I think City make that move, to be honest, because there's the links of Jack Grealish leaving in the summer, and I think City might go in for him.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think anybody does that after one season, if I'm honest. I think we've seen too many times in the past someone has a great season, gets sold, goes somewhere else and has a stinker. But with Rashford, I do think he will be the man going forward. He's not old. He's 25 or 26?
Yeah, 25.
Or almost 26.
No, he was 25 on Halloween. That's his birthday.
Okay.
He turned 25, so he's got age.
So it's a late burst to form, though. I mean, Fernandez is pretty similar, but it is a late burst to form. I can remember. I don't know whether you lot remember Ian Wright, but Ian Wright was really late to
Are you that old, Dan?
professional football. I am, yeah, believe it or not. Well, yeah. Back to Anton for the Rashford question.
He's not in his what they call peak ages yet. 10 years ago, peak ages might have been 26, 27, 28. But look at all the stuff that we've got now, the new technology, the new medicines or whatever they use. Football players are playing until they're nearly 40. Modric is 37, Neuer's 37, Thiago Silva's almost 40, Ibrahimovic. 10 years ago, I'll say 10 years ago again, I don't think footballers would have had the necessary resources to last that long at the highest level. With all of this being said, I don't even think Rashford's in his peak years yet. I think he's got at least another 2 or 3 years, I guess, of the development years. And then once you get to 28 to 31, I think he's going to be absolutely unstoppable if he carries on this trajectory, this very, very high trajectory that he's been on this season. Hopefully Ten Hag will be here the whole time. I want him to stay for a while, as long as it goes well. I do think Rashford will be the man. Garnacho will probably find a space on the right. Listen, we have an abundance of wingers at the moment. I don't really want to think about too far in the future because some of them aren't going to be here. but they're all so good. I don't want to think about that. But Rashford, I think, is the best of the bunch, and eventually, the team probably will be built around him and a couple of other players.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that at all. I think that's probably spot on, to be fair. It's definitely going to be interesting in the summer. There's so many different views about what is the most important position. I know some people think it's goalkeeper. Some people think we need a centre back, a new CDM to cover Casemiro, ball playing midfielder. There's so many different views. I would be of the opinion that we're very much sorted for wingers at Man United. We've got players like Pellistri, Ahmad, who could probably do a job when called upon. I'm hoping to see a little bit more rotation from Ten Hag.
Also, what are you? I know it's completely off topic, but what are your thoughts on Amad Diallo being more of a number 10 type of player? Because he reminds me of a bit of Bernardo Silva, the way he plays. He's quite small and he's very good on the ball. I wouldn't be surprised if Amad Diallo would become a 10 at some point.
So me and Stu was talking about this on a previous show, but we was talking about Pellistri would fit the number 10 for exactly the same reasons: the low center of gravity, ability with the ball is never more than a dustbin lid away from his feet, and the same applies to Ahmad. I'll be interested to see whether they get the chance next season. To be honest, I think Tegard's he's very much set in his ways and the ways he wants to play this season. It'd be interesting to see whether he moves away next season. Did you want to jump in, John?
Yeah, I think Connor did a show on Ahmad on his loan spell with Barry a few weeks back, and
it's been wonderful.
It was a really good show, and they got a Sunderland fan. I can't remember his
Graham.
Graham, that's the one. Yeah, he's a writer for that women's football and that, but he's a Sunderland fan, and he was giving good talk on what Ahmad's done at Sunderland. I think Ahmad's someone who can potentially. I don't think he started as often for Sunderland recently. I think the manager said he might be feeling a bit tired because obviously the Championship is quite a tough league, isn't it? And that Graham Folk, that's the one. So, and I think it's possible. I still think the right wing is probably his best position for me, but I don't think it's down to Ten Hag. I think he'll know what's best for him and that. But we do have competition there, and that's probably you got Anthony, you got Pellistri, and if you have
don't forget Langer.
Yeah, possible. Though I think that might leave.
I think Alanga's going to get sold this summer myself, but I genuinely don't think he's a terrible player. People make out that he's worse than he is.
He's just not had a
definitely
chance.
got some potential.
He's been forced through the ranks. Alanga, I feel sorry for him.
He's a bit like Rashford, except Rashford scored on his debut, and it's just gone well ever since. To be fair,
I think Ilanga's the type where he's like he won't get the goals and assists necessarily, but you know that he will kind of like track back. He'll make those like runs which nobody else does, free up space and that. And I don't think he's like, I'll say the type to get goals and assists, but he's the type that, a bit similar to what Lingard used to do, like when he used to make runs, create space for others kind of thing. I think that's possibly what his main strength is.
So Jarvis has had his say on Diallo there. So I think he sort of agrees with Dan in terms of the pace isn't there as an out-and-out winger. The only reason why I would sort of disagree with that is I agree that his pace is not of a winger, but Ten Hag he doesn't really over-rely on wingers to have like eccentric pace. Sancho's not blessed with it. Anthony's not blessed with it. And he will use them in a way where if we win the ball back high enough, it won't matter because he won't be looking to play on the counter-attack anyway. I know there's a difference between playing on the counter-attack and pressing high. If you win the ball back high enough, you haven't really got to run that fast because you can play one or two balls and you're in. So we'll move on to the third part of the show.
I think Andrew wants to make a point
Yeah,
Diallo.
yeah.
jump in, Andrew.
Just on Diallo, I just think United, in the summer they do have the option of sending him back to Sunderland for another year. They just don't think he's ready to break into the first team. I mean, yeah, he's had a huge impact on us with Sunderland, and I think Tony Mowbray, the manager there, has described him as amazing. But I think despite his obvious talent he's got, can he force his way into that first team next season? At the moment, I don't see it, but I know United rate him very highly, so it might be better off for him, playing regularly elsewhere, and Sun will obviously be at the front of the queue if he wants to go out on loan again. But let's say it'd be interesting to see how he progresses towards the end of the season. If he doesn't get in Ten Hag's first team plans, another year out on loan, maybe at another Premier League club as well. So, in the lower half of the Premier League, see how he gets on, and then bring him back.
Yeah, I'd very much like to see him get some Premier League time. I think I was reading an article. So this has just come to my head as we're recording. I was reading an article today in terms of United selling, and our record is absolutely shocking. Since before Fergie up to now, it's absolutely terrible in terms of. I think Dan James is 5th for value in terms of sales, which is
That's the only one we've made profit on.
The money that the players we've had for Old Trafford's door, for him to be 5th. I mean, I personally like Dan James, but for him to be 5th is crazy. Do you think? We'll go to John for this one. Do you think the club's sort of got an opportunity now where we can build up players like Ahmad, like Palestri, like Alanga, and actually get some value for players out the door instead of being absolutely ripped off? I'll go to Liverpool for this. The price they got for Ibe, Ward, so many others, ridiculous. Yeah. Didn't he get 32 million for Benteke after they sold him? And he was crap. Yeah. He was absolutely crap for them, and they got 32 million. Yeah, so do you think it's time that United sort of, in essence, sold the players better?
Yeah, I do agree that we do need to sell our. As I can also use Chelsea as an example as well. They've sold youth players for good money as well. I think Tommy Abraham was around 30 odd million, wasn't he, to Roma? And so for me, I think the stats speak for themselves. We've not been so really bad. And I do think over the past year or so, as what journalists close to the clubs have been saying, I think there is a recognition that the club have made mistakes and they have been bad at selling. And obviously with new FFP rules, we need to start being better at selling these players. I think that's what Ten Hag's managed to do. He's managed to get players, bring back some of their value, back. And I think you're looking on it now when United could quite easily make 100 million in sales this summer if they act properly. You could easily sell, Dean Henderson, and you can sell, player like McTominay maybe 30 million. Elanga, you could probably get 50 million for Elanga or something, to a decent Premier League team. You could maybe get rid of Eric Bailly, Alex Telles, even if it's just 5 million, all these things add up, and there'll be some big decisions made around Martial, won't there? And that. So for me, I think it's.
I always forget about Martial.
Yeah, you do, but I do think this is the summer where I hope to see United raise a substantial amount of money. I don't think he'll, break the records of some of the. Like you mentioned, the Dan Jones one, we might get money like that for the odd play, but for me, it's like some of the players have played better this season. I don't see any reason why we can't get, additional money, for these players and that, and I think also we need to. And like I say, that's one thing Ten Hag has managed to do, to raise the value of these players. And it might be that we look at Diallo, we might look to sell him if he's not part of the plans, and he's had a good loan spell at Sunderland. You can make money from him. We did make, what was it, about 10 million for what's his name? He went to Everton. Was at Forest last season. Garner, that's the one. So, and I think the sooner we get better at this, the more And that's a question of the new owners. You got to get the right people in position. And I think eventually, if you do get new owners to invest and, better work out these deals, I think you will begin to see a few more sales over the next few years in that but yeah, I think it's definitely something that needs to improve.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, we'll move on to the third part of the show. So this is just sort of an on-the-spot question for everybody, and it's back to Rashford in terms of going forward. If Rashford still hasn't signed a new deal going into next season, and sort of is refusing to sign a deal, what would you do in your own opinion? Would you sell Rashford in the summer because it's obvious he's not going to sign, or do you just keep him and let him walk for free? So we'll start with Dan on that one.
I've already explained my opinion, really. I think that Rashford stays no matter what. I think that, like I said, I won't be worried. I think he's just playing the patient game. I mean, it's not like FIFA with the negotiation skills. It takes a long time. It's not just you press X a few times and then you negotiate a player for £100,000 a week and they've got a 5-year contract. It's loads of different phone calls, it's loads of different scheduled meetings. It takes a long time to negotiate contracts, as we know. And for me, I think Marcus Rashford will want to stay at Manchester United. I think he likes what Eric Ten Hag's building. I do think that the main deciding factor, though, is if the Glazers stay or not, because I think Marcus Rashford doesn't want to end up like a Harry Kane, I think, where he only wins a little bit in his career. So I think that he will want to go out there and win trophies. And I think under Eric Ten Hag, he will see that ambition. He will want to win all that stuff. And he probably will see Eric Ten Hag as the guy who can lead him there. But at the end of the day as well, I think that the owners really matter. So I think if the Glazers stay, then that could be one of the reasons why Marcus Rashford might leave. But I would personally keep him, and if he wants to run out his contracts, then that's on Rashford. But I don't think he's that type of person. I don't think he'd ever do that.
So if he comes knocking on your door in the summer and says, I'm leaving no matter what, I'm going to run down my contract, you'd prefer he stays and just let him walk for free?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that, to be fair. Same question to John.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I think he will stay, in my opinion. He obviously loves the club and all that. I think for the club, it's really out of the club's hands if it goes beyond the summer. Because then if it does get to like January, and that, I think that why would you go in January when you can big bucks in the summer and that? But I do think the club needs to be wise financially. I think you got off a reasonable amount of money. We touched on that, and the Ronaldo rule, whatever it is. But I think what you can do is like you can say to Rashford, look, we have these new rules coming into place, but you could have incentives as well. For example, you've had 27 he scored this season.
I have got the stats here.
Yeah, so I think you could say, well, if you score 20 goals in a season, you'll get another, you'll get another 2-3 million maybe. If you contribute like 50 goal contributions in the season, we'll give you 5 million or something. And it's just if you're gonna have those rules, it's about negotiation. That we saw it with salary. Liverpool, didn't we? They didn't want to exactly break the wage structure, but they obviously want to keep it. In the end, they did a great deal. Obviously, he hasn't had his best season, and that's one thing you got to be cautious of. But it's always about our bargaining and all that. And I think if you're going to have a wage structure, you got to put the incentives in there that if you do perform, you will get rewarded. And I think these contracts are better than simply saying, right, we'll pay you 350k a week or something. So, but it'll be a tough negotiation, but I would expect him to stay.
Yeah, so just to Randon Lewis there that's commented, we spoke about that earlier on in the show about the wage cap. So give it a watch back at the end. There's some interesting views on that. We've just lost Dan because his phone's died. So we'll carry on. So same question to Anton really. If Rashford did decide to run down his contract, do you think United will be better letting him do that and keeping him because influence on the pitch or taking the money?
I'm gonna go against what Dan and John said. I think they should take the money because it wouldn't be small money that you get for him. I know we'd only have a year left on his contract, but he'd still be able to make enough to maybe buy someone else or cover a lot of the fee, like Kvaratskhelia Kvaratskhelia from Napoli. If Rashford turned around and said, "I want to leave," I know I just said you don't go in for him, but you'd probably go in for him, or somebody like that. There are other wingers in the world, probably not as good as Rashford, but you could get them to that level pretty quickly. I wouldn't let him leave for free. I think we've done that too many times. I think it would be a poor decision financially. I'm talking as if we have the Glazers here. I don't know about the owners, but I think in that situation, you have to get the money. Because, I don't know, I think it comes from a mental point of view from the player and the manager. Ten Hag knows he doesn't want to stay. He won't know for sure, regardless of what Rashford may tell him in behind closed doors. Ten Hag will be thinking, does he want to play for us right now? If he's just waiting out his contract, that means he just wants to leave. Like, do you want somebody in the camp that might not even want to be there? That's why I would go and get somebody else in to replace him as soon as possible. Yes, Rashford still plays for the year that he's going to maybe run out his contract on, or if you do sell him, then you have a ready-made replacement. Because then what happens if it gets to the year he goes, January deals get done. The winger we've been looking at might go somewhere else. You've then wasted a year, which you could have had someone else with fresh money. Now you're in a sticky situation, and now we're thinking, oh no, we're going to have to go and get Solly March or something last minute on deadline day. You don't know. I think it would be better to take the money and just sort your problem out there and then, rather than wait, because anything can happen in that year. But it's not going to happen anyway. I don't think it's going to. I hope it doesn't happen anyway.
No. This is why I thought it'd be a good question, to be honest, because I'm of the same opinion in terms of if he's made it clear that he's leaving and he's not going to sign his new deal. And we in essence, you look at Harry Kane's valuation of 110 million, 100 million. You're talking, even with a year left, Rashford's getting 150. It would be smart business to in essence just cut your losses, let him go. I obviously hope it don't happen. I think we all agree that we would say that he's going to stay, and we hope he's going to stay. He's the face of Manchester United currently.
Yeah.
And despite what a lot of people say that this is his first season in form, it's not. He's been fantastic for 3 of the last 4 years. His stats are very similar to the first 2 seasons under Ollie, where he was brilliant, over 25, 26 goals and assists for the season. So same question to you, Andrew. If he come knocking on your door, you as manager, do you wait and hope you can convince him, or do you just sell?
I'd wait and try and convince him. I think the next few months are going to prove decisive. I mean, Rashford's entering the prime years of his career, so I just think for all of us it'd be unfavourable for him not playing in the United shirt beyond next season. But on the other side, the club is trying to strike that balance between financially rewarding him, but being careful not to overstretch the wage bill. I think last season it stood at 384 million, so United have got to be a bit careful as well. I know Rashford's flirted with the idea of moving to a different club. I think about 4 years ago there was talks of Barcelona coming in, and then PSG offering 400 grand a week as well. But United were all aware of this, and talks between Rashford and the club have been very straightforward and honest. So he's decided to remain with us, and I think I've read somewhere he's building a new home in Cheshire at the moment, so he's keen to stay. So I think it was last season when Rashford wasn't in such good form. I think Gary Neville said it. It'd be a failure for United's football department if Rashford was ever allowed to leave. So I just hope United, they'll sit down with Rashford and they both can come to some compromise. The best deal for each other, and he stays for many more years to come.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think we all agree with that. So that brings me to my final question on the whole Rashford thing. And Dan sort of touched on it and nearly ruined my question. Obviously, the rumor is that Rashford is sort of waiting to see what's happening with the ownership before he signs a new deal. how influential do we think that decision's going to be if the Glazers stay? I think he's been a bit crafty in that if he stays and the Qataris take over, his wage might bump up by 50k, knowing the financial outlay, than if the Glazers stay. I don't necessarily think he'll leave if the Glazers stay. I mean, we all want the Glazers to go, but I don't think he'll leave if they do stay necessarily. So what do you think, Anton? Do you think that he's sort of biding his time because he knows this is going to be a massive contract for him and it's going to be a massive contract in terms of years, our minimum 5 years, maybe with the option of one that they tend to put in. Do you think he's just biding his time to see whether the club's going to be settled going forward?
Yeah, 100%. I know he's a footballer. I know footballers live in different worlds to us. They might not look into stuff as much as we do. Obviously, we're here talking in depth about Manchester United. Rashford probably, or footballers might not do that. If you watch interviews, footballers might not even know who they played 4 weeks ago. Like, they're in a completely concentrated and fixed mindset. But saying that, Rashford will know the mess that Manchester United is. He will know way better than us. He will know what the Glazers do and what they don't do, what they fund and what they don't fund, what the general feeling is around them being in charge of the club. If, for example, he signed a new contract now, blockbuster deal, 5 years, lots of money, and then the Glazers decided to stay, we don't know what side of the fence he sits on. He might hate the Glazers. That might be a reason why he's hesitated in the past. If we get sold to somebody who is worse than the Glazers, but he's already signed a new contract, then he's stuck in the mud again. If we get sold to, hypothetically, the best owners you can get, and he's waited it out, then yeah, it might be the money. He might be able to negotiate a bit more on the bonuses or the base wage or whatever he wants, but I think he definitely is waiting to see what direction the club is going, because that's very important. It's one of the most important things that a football player is advertised. Or is it a manifesto? Like, a manager will make a manifesto why you should join this club. Why should Rashford sign a new contract extension when we're currently going through a pretty messy period? We want to be settled. The waters want to be calm, and then he can sign a new contract, hopefully.
Yes, I can remember when Rooney sort of went on partial strike, stating the state of the club, and he wanted some clarification on the future. So yeah, I definitely agree. Same question to you, Andrew.
Yeah, I was going to say, what I was reading from the Athletic, the potential sale of United by the Glazers is not seen as a complicating factor, in the negotiating. Plus, United renegotiating several key contracts as well, like the futures of Fred, Dalot, Luke Shaw, and De Gea as well. So, no, I just don't think who we're going to get sold to will affect Rashford. I think he's more concerned with what he's doing on the pitch, helping his teammates as well, and also what the manager wants and the coaches as well. So I just don't think Rashford would be that sort of person. I want to know who the new owners are first before I decide. I think he wants to, focus all his efforts on the pitch. So I hope he does sign that contract, and I hope we'll hear some good news in the summer when he hopefully signs it. But I just don't think that will be a factor in his decision making.
No, I genuinely think every United fan is hoping that he just stays. I'm of the opinion, I hope he stays for a reasonable contract. Yeah. I do think the club need to get back into a situation where it's not just about money playing for United, but it's the passion. And this is what I like from Rashford. The fact that we've heard that PSG came in at 450 last summer and he didn't turn his head. He wanted to sort his Man United form out and come back stronger, which he's done. If you would have said to me 12 months ago, does Rashford deserve a contract for 250, 300? I'd have said not a chance with the way he was playing. But you factor everything in at the minute, and it's got to be a minimum of 250 with performance basis, like stuff added on. Surely, I think we all hope that he stays. So, same question to you, John. What do you think?
Yeah, but I think he would probably want to keep an eye on the ownership situation. I think that will be a natural thing. I think with Rashford, it's I think in fairness, footballers, we do say about money and that. Obviously, the money will be an important factor, but it's also about the best projects. Ultimately, players, even though they want to earn well and all that, of course they do. But ultimately, it's like, well, where my thought is where's my best place to, win titles ultimately. I'm sure that's what Rashford's thinking, and I agree with Anton. Atmosphere the guys have created hasn't been, exactly a winning atmosphere in recent years. But I think in terms of like the training ground and all that, when Ten Hag in place, it looks like now we're beginning to see us return to becoming competitive in every competition. And for the first time, if we continue on this trajectory, hopefully we'll be winning the league title within, a year or two, hopefully with a bit of luck and that. So for me, I think that's what I'll be focused on. It'll be interesting to know and hopefully we probably will get new owners for the next few months. He'll want to look at what you're offering. You might also look at we bought last summer. Are we going to buy this summer coming up, for example? With new owners and that, hopefully. So I think it's all about the project and ultimately incentives. And I do think that what happens over the next few months for the overall club and also potentially how we finish this season could be a factor. But I think I'm so positive he'll sign a new deal.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Like I said, I genuinely think that the form he's hit this season, the way he's played, it's got to be United have got to sort it quickly. To be honest, I don't want to get to November, December, and this be a problem. I'm hoping something's agreed in principle in the next 4 months.
I think ultimately you want it to get done by the summer. I think, or certainly by the end of the summer transfer window if you can. So obviously it'll be a tough bargain, but you want to get it done, I'd say, as soon as possible, don't you?
So we've had stuff flying up on here about Scotland, and McTominay has scored twice, and they are beating Spain 2-0.
4 goals in 2 games.
Absolutely incredible. That's it. I've seen it all over Twitter. Stick him up front. Stick him up front. You know what? If Martial gets injured again.
Sabitzer got 2 the other day for Austria, didn't they?
Was that one of the free kicks that he scored?
Yeah.
I saw that.
And he got an assist in that game as well.
Wow. Yeah. Everyone's flying under Ten Hag. Absolutely flying. So, yeah, that was all of my questions for this stream on Rashford. Did anybody else have a question?
I do have one. I think it's more of a yes or no. He's got 36 goal contributions so far. I think there's 19 games potentially for us to play. Do you think he's going to reach 50 goal involvement?
What's he on to?
He's 36 now. I think 14. There's 19 games left, like if we reach the finals.
So he's another 14 then.
Yeah.
He's got 27 goals in 44 games.
With assists as well. I think he can reach the 50.
In the FA Cup final as a winner.
Yeah. Was that given his goal?
No. Yeah, he did get the League Cup goal.
Yeah,
he did get it in the end.
Yeah,
okay.
I
thought it was
so.
a goal.
So we'll get 50, possibly. I think he might get. I think he'll get 35 goals. He might push 40 goals, possibly.
If he gets 40 goals, he's definitely getting 50
well,
goals.
Then he has to play every game, though. So
I think he will. I think this rest has done him more good than I think people might realise.
I'm hoping.
Because what is it, 2 weeks? 2 weeks not playing it. That would have been, 4 games, maybe 5 that he would have had to play in that time.
Yeah,
not
minimum.
Going on holiday, just chilling. I know he's been back in training, but that's not like playing a match. I think either one thing I do get scared about with international breaks, and especially players that don't get the minutes they would usually get for their national team, is that they might come back a little bit rusty and just coming towards the end of the season, general tiredness. I feel like some players might just kind of fall off just a little bit. So with Rashford, I think it's either going to go like that, or because of this extra rest that he's had, he's absolutely going to tear it up.
I've just had a thought. Why might he be in New York? And he was there with his partner. They're engaged, aren't they? So maybe Gareth picks his England squad at the end for the June International. So I'm sorry, Gareth. I booked my wedding day that weekend.
Yeah, you never know. Right, so we've got one final question then from Jarvis, and this is the question he asked earlier that we missed, and it's: Will Kane's potential transfer to Man United be in danger since Conte got the sack?
Nope.
Pochettino rumours are hot. We'll go to Andrew for that one.
It's difficult with Harry. This is Harry Kane's a Tottenham legend. He's got the record goal scorer there, but I'm just thinking, what does he want now? Because are Tottenham going to win any trophies in the next couple of years? I don't see it. So I think players always say when you look back on the career when they finish, what's most important to them? It's like winning trophies. So on that score, Kane's not. He wants to be winning the biggest trophies, whether that's coming to us or he goes somewhere else. But I think he's 29 or 30, or he's about to hit 30. Yeah,
I think he'd be 30 by the time he joined.
So I'm thinking, former United player Robin van Persie. He was like, when he was at Arsenal, he was just like, Fergie came and said, "I want you to come and lead the charge of getting that title back," and he delivered. So I just think Harry Kane's. That's the thing. If he came back, he might just sway Harry Kane. But I just think with Pochettino going back to Tottenham, it's just like, someone said a few weeks about like a marriage. Pochettino and Tottenham was like, well, you only remember the good times. You don't remember why you got divorced. So it's just like
you never go back to your ex.
Yeah, it's like they could still be in the same situation, like scrambling for Champions League, not in the competing like in the FA Cup, the League Cup, or the Champions League. It's like Daniel Levy shouldn't have really sacked Pochettino. He should have gave him the time and then rebuilt that squad, because that's what Pochettino was asking for. I just need to rebuild the squad. Levy said no, and then results fell away, and then Pochettino was sacked. But yeah, it's a big decision for Harry Kane. Yes, I would love him at United, so I'd say we need an out-and-out striker, but it's going to be an interesting summer because I don't think Tottenham. I think Stellini and Mason are staying until the end of the season, so
yeah, apparently so. Yeah,
Harry Kane's going to wait until who that new manager potentially is. If it's not Poch, we might just have a chance like everybody else does, but the summer will definitely be interesting to see where he goes.
I definitely think it might be off the cuff to say it, but I definitely think it's a choice. It's a choice between Spurs and United. I don't think he's going to want to leave the Prem because he's eyeing up the goal scoring record.
Yep.
He's not far away from the goal scoring record. So it's just a case of, does he want to retire as a Tottenham legend, as a bit like Alan Shearer without the Premier League, or does he want to come and try and win some trophies? I heard Nagelsmann was quite hot to Spurs.
I think he'll naturally be a Tottenham legend because he's the highest.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Goal scorer, regardless what happened, unless he joined Arsenal. Well, he won't do that. But I do think it's interesting because his contract's similar to Rashford's situation, isn't it? But I think if you're Harry Kane, now's the time if you want to be winning things, isn't it? So you can be like, well, I think it comes down to his mentality. He might be happy at Spurs. He might be happy playing there for the rest of his career, and that, which you can respect, and that. But I think ultimately, as Anton said, it's you want to be remembered for what you win, and ultimately, there's a big gap there. It's his number 9 position, and if we go out for him again, it'll be a tough negotiation with Daniel Levy, but. Maybe because he has broken the goal scoring record at Tottenham, and from his perspective, can he do more than what he has done for Tottenham? Like he's done everything he can possibly, and I think trophy-wise, you never know, they might win the old League Cup or something, but they're not going to be winning Premier Leagues, and that's ultimately he has to decide whether he wants that or not.
I hope this is true. Nagelsmann is young and has ambition, will never join Spurs, because I genuinely think it would be a bit of a threat. Go on then, Anton, your final thoughts on the question of Kane.
I think he's already left. I don't think he's around 30. We can see, look, the Premier League has City, United, Arsenal, the 3 best teams in the country at the moment. Liverpool better than Tottenham. Give Chelsea actual time.
Another 600 million.
Yeah, like they have a dangerous team. They have a very good team. Whether or not it's Graham Potter, they're kind of in the same situation as Tottenham almost. But Chelsea's team is miles better than Tottenham. Tottenham aren't anywhere near the top. They're not going to win the Prem. They're not going to win the Champions League. Even if they were in the Europa League, they wouldn't win that. Harry Kane, I'm sure he must know this by now. Like if they win anything in the next couple of years, it's by, you get luck of the draw. You have a few fluky results. I think he's at a point. He's got the Tottenham record, which he would have definitely been waiting for. As you said, he's not going to leave the Prem. We have the money to buy him. We have a manager. We're definitely on the up. We've won a trophy this season, so it's not even a case of where maybe last year you might have heard people say, look, you haven't won anything in 5 years. You haven't done this and you haven't won anything in ages. Why would he go to you? We've won something now. Hopefully this isn't the only trophy we win this season. If he stays at Spurs, I think someone just said it, the most he'll win is like a League Cup or something. If you come to Manchester United, you have Premier League title shots, hopefully next season. League Cup, FA Cup, probably not a Champions League shot, but you'd be playing Champions League football in the knockout round. I think that it is between Manchester United and Spurs, but I also think someone like Bayern could come in because although Choupo-Moting has been one of their best players this season, he's not Lewandowski or anywhere near his level. And Kane is probably the only available striker in the world that could go there and do a similar job or better than Lewandowski. Obviously, they just sacked Nagelsmann. Still don't know why, if I'm honest. But they're going to be, whoever the new manager comes in, whoever that may be, they're going to be thinking, yeah, we need a striker. Who's available? Kane's available. So I think he will have a couple of options, but I don't think he'll be leaving the Prem. So I think he's already on the way out, if I'm honest. I don't think... Yeah.
I would agree. I genuinely think it's a choice between us and Spurs. I'll be shocked if he leaves the Prem. I really would. It seems like such a obvious transfer for Kane and United. I'd be shocked if it's missed. He's got the name on the shirt that any owner would want at the club for shirt sales. He's got the English link already with many players in the squad. It's just so obvious that I would actually not be shocked if it's missed. So that's going to be it for this show. It's been good, to be honest. I've enjoyed doing it. If you just want to give yourselves a shout out where we can find you.
Yeah, I was going to say you can find myself on Twitter there, Andrew_Wall. So that's where you can find me talking about United.
Yeah, you can find me at John_Kermel2 on Twitter.
You can see my Twitter there is at Anton Brooks AMB. That is my Twitter, so you can find me there.
Excellent. Right, well, just a big thanks to obviously Barry and Connor for letting me do it. I hope it's gone quite well. I hope you enjoyed the questions. I tried to make them as difficult as I could. Did that on purpose. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you on the next show.